value chain leadership for the supply chain executive. Here to talk to us about that today is Elsy Ocejo, who is Senior Vice President of Supply Chain at Elsy Foods. Elsy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
First off, can you explain a little bit about what you mean by a value chain as opposed to a supply chain?
I think all depends in the industry or in the company. But for me, value chain is really end-to-end supply chain, from getting raw materials, procure it, all the way to customer experience or customer service, really getting the feedback directly from the customer. So it's from procurement all the way to customer experience, but throughout that supply chain, let's put it that way, you start adding value to the product, not adding cost.
Ah, interesting. So you're adding value, not cost.
Exactly.
I like that.
So
Okay.
that's the different perspective now.
Right, right. So now I know that Elsy Foods had a senior procurement manager, I think, and then elevated the role to VP of supply chain, which is what you filled. Could you tell me what that means for you?
Exactly. It is actually very exciting and challenging. I have been named the first vice president of supply chain for Elsy Foods. So what does that mean? Recently, there has been a new CEO. She's a fourth generation family member, and she really wanted to transform the company. So one of the areas that she really wanted to make a real impact is really setting up the supply chain for success.
Right.
Because Elsy Foods is an innovator on sauces, marinades, seasonings, as well as syrups. But then so what? They are innovators and culinary experts, but actually supply chain enables that value proposition for the company.
Right.
So she really needed to encompass several areas that were with several leaders into supply chain. So now this role oversees procurement, scheduling, customer experience, as well as project management.
Right, so no pressure there.
Not at all.
That's a lot. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the cross-functionality that's come into your role, which I gather you have a great emphasis on. Perhaps you could tell us more about that.
Yes, one of the things that I really like about Elsy is that one of their values is that we value partnerships. So it's not only the external partnerships, but also the internal partnerships. So if you combine both, meaning cross-functional collaboration and partnerships, that really comes into mind. So for me, it's not only building the supplier partnerships, but internally, how can we work and collaborate together and really make the operations efficient? Because we have a team that is very creative, but how we can really encompass the operational excellence between what they do and really enhance it and enable it in order to really have a value proposition for Elsy.
Can you give me a specific example of two departments that work together now that might not have perhaps coordinated before?
Exactly. So excellent question. One of the things, I have been, by the way, in the role 60 days already. But also there has been a newly appointed VP of R&D. And her and I have very similar backgrounds as to the companies we have been at, from small, medium, very big companies, and now in Elsy, which is a small, medium-sized company. So we really have that strategy background as well as really executing the strategy. So one of the things that we're talking about is how we can really enhance the strategic, not only element of Elsy, but how R&D and supply chain can bring the same goal of strategy together, really uniting the teams. Why? Because whenever we make a new product or we start innovating a new product, we need to get samples from several sources, could be commodities, flavors, or packaging, that we need to test in order to really sell and innovate in a product for a customer.
And so is there room, for example, if there's an ingredient that's becoming rare or politically different, difficult, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if there was a spice for a flavoring that came from somewhere that had just come under a military dictatorship or something like that. does that mean that you as a supply chain VP can go to R&D and say, look, we're going to, maybe we want to develop products that don't use this or do use this product that's become much more available. Is that the sort of level of collaboration you're talking about?
Yes. And we also, if you think about also the food quality and safety aspect of the products and really taking care of the product integrity, it's critical for the company. So a specific example I can mention here in the United States, some states have been banning the ETO treatment of spices.
I don't know about that. Please tell me.
Exactly. So there has been several states due to, we can say, several effects in the body that specific treatment has to some spices. Mm-hmm. But if you think about several other countries need that treatment in order to really eliminate any bacteria or harmful environment.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that Europe doesn't use that treatment anymore. They use steam treatment or irradiation.
Right.
And here in the United States, you can use 3 treatments, right? But it's morphing into what Europe is doing right now. So how then we can collaborate with R&D and food quality and safety as to those spices that are ETO treatment into steam treatment or others,
right?
Like
fascinating.
How we can collaborate together to really get the sources and change that and propose that to the customers as well.
Wow. So you're really getting into the weeds on a daily basis, it sounds like. That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit more about Elsy Foods. What do they do? When were they founded? It sounds like a family company, I think. Yeah?
Yes. It was founded in 1927 by a Hungarian immigrant who was an Olympic athlete.
Oh, wow.
And it has already been run by 4 generations. And actually, Kristen Ellis, she's fantastic. She has been a great addition to the company, but she has been working before in the company in other roles until she obtained the CEO when her father retired, but he's part of the board.
Elsy, most companies are struggling to find and retain workers at the moment. Do you have any tips or insights about how to overcome those problems?
Yes, I think everything comes up to leadership. Right. And leadership, what I mean that you really need to value the people and be as human as possible, specifically if you want the workforce to come back to the office, right? Now that there's the virtual environment, and sometimes you cannot read the body language as to how people are really doing. And if we're morphing more into a hybrid environment, it's really understanding, how the people are really doing. And if you really care, I think that's one aspect of really retaining workers, right? Actual workers. But the other one is really elevating the skills they're in. A lot of workers...
Like they did with VP of Supply Chain,
exactly,
right?
Really rethinking how our current talent can be enhanced or how we can really shift to make it more efficient, right? Is it really a hybrid combination? Do people really need to come back to the office? For us, it has been hybrid so far for some roles, and for others, we have been working all the time at the factory. So
sure, of course, there are some roles that can't be done virtually.
Exactly. So it's the right combination depending on the role, but also really being focused on families. I mean, we are a family company, so we understand that family is first, right? And then also later work, right? But that's the most important thing.
Thank you so much, Elsy. We've been talking about value chain leadership for the supply chain executive with Elsy Ocejo from Elsy Foods. Thank you for watching.